I just want to congratulate you on the work you're doing, the men and women who work with you, getting the truth out. And it's harder and harder to do these days. You know, in March, I think, of 2023, this year, the Russian court announced the bankruptcy of Radio Free Europe and Radio Liberty's operations for failure to comply with their foreign agent law. Just wonder how safe you feel your journalists are, being potential for being detained. I don't know how many you have in Russia, and I'm not going to ask you to display that number here today, but just give us your thoughts.
Thank you, Senator. And, you know, when you talk about being flexible, being nimble, there was a situation that required the ultimate in flexibility and the ability to move fast, because we had to very quickly work to get the majority of our journalists out of the country and to someplace safe. And neighboring countries were very accommodating. The Czech Republic, for example, and Latvia were very welcoming in receiving those. And we've had to turn to Congress to help us get funding to create news centers for these journalists to work out of in places on the Russian periphery. So yes, that had a tremendous impact on our work inside Russia. But as I say, being shut out of malign countries by forcible means is nothing new to this organization, and we intend to fully continue to do that. And I'd just like to say one thing. Radio Free Europe and Voice of America in Russian currently reach about 10% of adults inside Russia. And that may not sound like a lot until you realize that America's two most popular news-based programs only reach right about 20%, and that is in the freest media market in the world. So in a closed environment, we are able to reach 10% of the adults there. So despite what's happening.
You know, you're dealing with the disinformation that comes out within Russia. You know, in January, their Ministry of Foreign Affairs posted on social media a claim that they had obtained 20,000 documents regarding a supposed secret U.S. biological weapons program in Ukraine. And this isn't the first time Russia's made the U.S. a victim of disinformation campaign. What's our current experience teaching us about countering the kind of disinformation that comes out?
Two things. One is that each one of our major entities now has a very robust fact-checking operation, so that's one thing that's very important. So checking the facts that provided to the people who consume our products. But on the other hand, I think a lot of our power comes from not countering and not pushing back, but providing alternatives. Because if the only thing you see and hear is the disinformation, then it's the only thing you see and hear. For us, putting out credible news and information, and again, I have a chart that I'd be happy to show everybody that shows what happens to the audiences of each one of our networks when something happens inside the country, when the people inside that country are receiving news and information that they don't trust from their own government, and that is the headscarf protest. Our Iranian audience went like this, our digital audience went like this, and it was that much of a thing. And the same thing with the China COVID protest. People during the time when they cannot believe their own governments, despite the volume of information they're getting, they turn to us, they come to us, they seek us out.
And my final question is that, you know, China and Russia seem to be joining forces in a number of different things, and part of it is this. In April, Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty reported that they had received some leaked documents and recordings which confirmed reports of Russia and China collaborating on censorship and internet control tactics. The information provided showed that officials from Russia and China share strategies for tracking dissidents, for controlling the internet. They've asked each other for help in blocking what they call dangerous news, what we might call the truth, and for advice on how to impede some of the technology that's coming. So what are the key elements that you are focusing on, the United States is focusing on, to counter the Chinese and Russian messaging?
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true, and we are seeing that on the ground, and I'm actually hoping that that's something I'm going to get much more insight into when I make my trip to Kenya to meet with the media executives, because they're the ones that have the real foot on the ground, because they're actually the targets, the CEOs of existing news organizations in these continents are the targets. So finding out from them exactly what is happening and how we can I hate to say defend ourselves against that, but make sure that we are providing good and reliable alternatives to give them the option.
Well, thank you for the great job you're doing. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Chairman.
Senator.
Let me thank you for your dedication to this mission. We're very proud of your leadership, and thank you for your testimony today.
Senator, thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. I really appreciate your attention. Thank you so much.
We'll now turn to our second panel.